Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional goaltender Mike Ouzas. Mike has played over 500 professional games and is very well known for his contribution to pro hockey overseas. He recently played in the ICHL, which is a rebrand of the EBL, where he played in 3 games this season. He also had trips in the ECHL and the AHL, as well as playing college hockey at the University of New Brunswick, where he led New Brunswick to 2 championships. Mike also played juniors in the OHL for the Barrie Colts and Owen Sound Attack. Welcome to the show, Mike Ouzas.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So how have you been? Like, I know you're in quarantine right now. You're back in Canada. So how's everything going?
Yeah, it's been good. Toronto just announced a new lockdown yesterday. So, I mean, I've been in quarantine for the last 12 days or so. So I haven't been doing too much at home, but keeping busy. And yeah, now that the new lockdown rules are in, I don't really know what's coming next. But yeah, just kind of like everybody, just play it by ear and see how things go.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy times we're in right now. It's can't expect anything at this point.
Yeah, it's see it how it comes, and other people are making decisions for everybody, and we just kind of roll with the punches, I guess.
Oh yeah, exactly. So can you give our viewers like a little background information on yourself, like when you started playing hockey, what made you become a goaltender, what it was like growing up in Hamilton, Canada?
Yeah, so I started at 7. Oddly enough, on our street, like street hockey is pretty popular in Canada, and on our street was we had 4 goalies on the street actually that played like ice hockey, which it's pretty uncommon. But the trend, I'm sure. Well, you're a goalie, so you know the trend. But most goalies don't want to play goalie in street hockey. So I was the youngest, and I always got thrown in net by all these guys, and I loved it. And my first, so then Hockey Night in Canada was popular back then. The Toronto Maple Leafs and Felix Potvin was larger than life back then. And so I remember watching hockey and asking my parents if I could start playing. And I mean, my parents don't skate. They had no idea. So they're like, okay, well, we'll figure out how to sign you up. So they did, a local rink. And the first season, like, you rotate goalies, and I think, whatever, 5-6 games in, I had my hand up to play, and I played. And the coach called me that night and said, Mike, like, do you want to be our goalie for the rest of the year? And I was 7 years old at that time. So yeah, that was 28 years ago. I never really looked back. So
That's a pretty good feel good moment when your coach is like, you played you had to play super well, so might as well stay in the net the entire rest of the season.
Yeah, or I might have just been the kid that wanted to play every week in nets. So maybe he saw that excitement. But yeah, it was cool, and I it's been a long journey since, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, and who doesn't love staying on the ice for 60 minutes and just being being the only guy that's able to be out there the entire time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so going into your junior career a little bit, before you went to the OHL, the Ontario Hockey League, you were playing junior A in Finland. So, like, what was the process like to go play juniors in Finland for your 18 and 20 years?
Yeah, so actually, I just turned 16. So it was the OHL draft. I was drafted by the Barrie Colts, and it was an odd time because back then, I don't know how it is now for junior A hockey in Tier 2 in Canada there in Ontario. And there was a team in Hamilton, and they had my rights because I had played in the minor hockey system there. The other goalie on our team, Dave Brown, he had a great career as well, and he was, we were both drafted the OHL, so we were both like kind of in the pipeline to go play for this team, and the coach basically told us, okay, well, we're going to keep both of you, and we're going to bring in a 19-year-old to play. So like I was doing the math in my head, and I'm like, well, they only play 30 games or 40 games, whatever it is in that league, and it was like, so I'm probably going to get like not even 10, 8 to 10. And if everything goes well, obviously. So I had an opportunity to go play for a different team in the league. And Hamilton said no. They said, we're not going to give you the release. And, at that time, it's like, what do you do? So I played in one of those prospect tournaments in Toronto. And I got a call from a guy, and he's like, yeah, there's these Finnish guys here, and the coach for this team. The team just got promoted to the top junior league in Finland, the under 20 league. Would you be interested in maybe going to play there? And like I mean, back then is so different. Like take away Instagram, take away internet. Like we're talking this would have been in 2001. So before YouTube, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
you don't really know much about it. You kind of I heard from different people, and my goalie coach at the time, like, he said it was a good league. And so I went down there with my dad in the summer for a couple of weeks, and, the quality was good level hockey. It was definitely better than anything better than Bantams here and that kind of midget and stuff. So, yeah, I took it. I talked to Barry about it because then too, I guess another little side note is that they were only keeping two draft picks at that point to the OHL. So now I think they can have up to 5. I think it is. If you're drafted, you can go play right away. For back then, it was only 2, and I think it was a third rounder. So, the first 2 guys were playing, and I had to find a place to play for a year, and I was kind of slotted in there. So I went over to Finland. And played, and the league was actually outstanding. That's the league that all like the World Junior guys would be playing in, between there and the pros, obviously. And played a lot of good players, a lot of good goalies, a lot of good. Yeah, it was a lot of good development, a lot of ice time. They had goalie coaching back then. It was quite good, but different. Like when I moved over there, like nobody had a cell phone. My parents like had a car phone, like one of those things built in your car.
Yeah.
Like internet was just getting fired up. You had to pay for it. You name it. Like it was
Talk
definitely
about a blast from the past.
blast from the past. Yeah, it just kind of dates me a lot. But there, like it was weird because when I went there, like everyone had cell phones. Everyone's texting each other on those little Nokia because that's a Finnish company. Like the little snake phones, and it was crazy going there. And like now all of a sudden I had to get a cell phone, and like I moved back home after the season, and like none of my buddies had phones. I was like, "Oh, I'll send you a text," and they're like, "What? Like, what's texting?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, anyway." It was good. So I played there for 1 year, and then I started my OHL career in Barrie, played a year in Barrie. Then I was traded to St. Mike's Majors in Toronto, played a year in St. Mike's Majors in Toronto. Then the coach from Barrie got fired, got hired in St. Mike's. He traded me again. to Mississauga, and that's kind of where I was able to establish myself my 19 year, and had a good year that year. And then I finished off in Owen Sound. I got traded my overage year for the like playoff deadline. So yeah, that's a long time ago, but it's cool to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think like playing in Finland definitely did help you in the long run, just developing for like college hockey, and then when you went into pros, and like what would you do to like help yourself develop, especially when you're playing in a different country that you weren't really familiar with?
It's a good question. If I were to look back at it, I think, it was cool to go over there and get the experience of going over there. And yeah, I went to high school there before like distance learning was a thing and all that stuff. But, at the same time, I do think that I closed a lot of doors for myself by going over there, because now from an NCAA perspective, they thought I went pro, or that I had some time with the pro team practicing and stuff. So they're like, now I fell off the radar of that. In my head, I always wanted to go to the OHL, but you want to keep both avenues open if you're not there yet, I would say. So yeah, like from a development standpoint, it was good. Like dedicated goalie practice once or twice a week, a lot of ice time, which Europe's pretty known for, and all that stuff was great. But if I were to look back, like I wonder if my path may have been different by playing tier 2 in Canada. I'm not sure. I can't answer that, but yeah, it was interesting. But then, I mean, I stepped into the OHL the next year, and I will say, like, I just probably wasn't prepared enough for that step. Even if the level I was at was good, I wish I would have been a little more prepared for that, or a lot more prepared for that. Let's say that.
Yeah, so going into that, and like you went on to play in the OHL for Barrie Colts that season, just like what was the transition like going from Finland to playing in the OHL, and just like you said, like even though you're playing good competition in Finland, like it was a lot different than playing in the OHL.
I would say, the level was still quite good in Finland. Obviously not like OHL level, but it was still quite good. I think the biggest thing that I wish I would have learned, like, I wish I learned how to be, a backup, and how to like learn my role on what I meant to the team. Like, you know how it is. It's easy to get caught up. Like if you're 16 or 17, it's like, oh, I should be playing games. But really, like, the guy who's 19 is probably way better than me at that time, for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's exceptions to that, but it's like, okay, well, if I'm not playing, how's my attitude? How's my work ethic? What am I doing to give myself the opportunity to get in games? If I get in games, am I so good that I earn myself another start? And I didn't know any of those elements back then. I didn't know anything about that. So it was always like, I had the mentality like, oh, I should be playing more, blah, 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 which, is not the right way to go in that situation. Um, it I just wasn't prepared for that mostly. I'd say from a level standpoint, like I think I mean, it's hard to say like I was ready. I think I didn't understand just how ready you need to be at that level. Like there's a difference between like, okay, like I'm stopping pucks and goalie practice and this and that, and being like, okay, I need to like stop the best players on this team on a daily basis. Like the top end guys can't just come down on me and score every single time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a big difference, and I think you know where I'm going at with that. Like so that's where I feel like I don't think anything prepares you for that, but at least having the attitude where you're kind of ready to go into that situation and accepting the role that you're given and that they need you to do. If I had that mentality, I think I would have been far better off.
Yeah. So like when do you think you developed that like you knew what your role was, and uh you're able to learn like your new role, and just like a backup role, like starting role, like when did you feel like you've got that role like where you want it to be?
Um, Good question. I don't know, to be honest. I really think like even the next year I came back. So, well, I guess to your point. So that summer I came back to Toronto like with a quote unquote like a chip on my shoulder. Like I was like, okay, I need to like work. I need to put in a huge summer of work. Um, and I did to an extent. And I went back to camp. Then I ended up in St. Mike's. But when I was in St. Mike's, I was just traded there, and like Justin Peters was the number one guy. Justin's a good buddy of mine, still is, and he was so good. He was, that year he was a second round of the NHL. He was unreal. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna like Justin's work ethic was still way better than mine. And so now I'm a year older than him, and I'm like still not. I'm like, wow, like I thought I had a good summer, and this guy comes in and he's stronger than me, he's working harder than me. Like now I need to match that level again. But that gave me like an insight of like, okay, this is how you have to work. Like there's no days off. There's no like just show up. Like this guy's a starter. He played however many games. Um, he was really good. And it's like, okay, that is the standard. So the next summer was really when things took off for me. So now I had like 2 years under my belt, which is not actually that great to not get your feet wet. Like if you go into your 19 year and you haven't really like, let's say, created your like a name for yourself, like your 19 year in junior is more or less your make or break year.
Yeah.
Would you not agree? Like that's kind of like
I'd agree 100%.
So it's like you're either a player or you're kind of not, like in a sense. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just kind of the reality of junior hockey in the OHL for sure. So that summer was like, when I mean huge for me, I mean like this is my make or break summer. So I totally changed. I came and trained in Toronto full time. Another really good buddy of mine, Andy Chiodo, like took me under his wing, and I remember first time I saw Andy work out, and I was just like, holy, like this is unbelievable. I've never seen a guy work like this. And it's no coincidence, like Andy had like Justin and Andy played together in St. Mike's, and Justin obviously would have learned some of that too, and like that was like for me game changing. I'm like, okay, well, this is not just like I need to bring it every day in practice. This is like I need to bring this every single day of the year. How do I like work as hard as I can every time I get to work out, every time? And so that going into my 19 year, I was like kind of quote unquote on a mission. Like I was like ready to, I had an awesome camp with the team. And then I was traded pretty pretty early in the season to Mississauga, like 5 games in. And I remember it was funny because I got traded from St. Mike's with Justin Peters, who was a second rounder, to, David Shantz was in Mississauga he was also a second rounder. Both guys were like 1 and 2 in the whatever. And yeah, so I was traded there. I remember sitting down with the goalie coach, and the goalie coach was kind of like, what do you expect out of this season? Which is probably a conversation he has with everybody, I'm sure. And I was like, I want to be the guy. Like, I want to be the starter. And he, like, okay, like whatever. I was like, I'm serious. Like in my head, I'm like, I believe this. And that was it. I just kind of went to work, and I just went to work every single day, brought an intensity that I felt that I needed, which, whatever, but I still felt that I needed that to be at a high level every day. And yeah, it propelled me. I had a pretty good season that season. And then, yeah, I was able to stick around as an OA year and play the next year. And then eventually I went to university.
Yeah, that's just really like interesting about like, it's really cool how like Andy put all that like thought in you, and you just had to work, because goaltending and like playing like any sport, like you have to work if you want to be good. And it's just incredible to see what your drive and like the motivation behind everything is, and just keep grinding every day even when it's hard, because it gets hard and like you sometimes don't want to do it, but just to get out there and just get after it and don't stop and just keep going. Like it just really proves that like work ethic and all that, and like what you believe in. It's definitely really cool to see that.
Yeah. Just a little side note to that is like no one's gonna wait for you. And that's something that I didn't like. It took me a long time to realize was like, you know what? Everyone's moving at the same pace and guys are working harder than others, but no one's going to like wait for me to like be good. These teams aren't going to take their time with me to be good. Like it's either I'm good now or I'm not. And that was it, man. I learned from some awesome people and it really gave me the elements that allowed me to have a pretty long career.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to be good, unless, like you said, they're not going to wait for you. They're gonna gas you, like not start you or whatever, and just you got to be ready at all times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then going into like your last year in the OHL, you also got a call up that year to Grand Rapids, right?
Yeah, that was pretty short. So I was local and Grand Rapids was in Toronto playing the Marlies in playoffs and they needed a guy basically like right away. Like I guess the goalie whatever got sick or something, couldn't make the trip. It's weird though because at that time that was the year that the gear changed. So the pads got smaller. You're probably way too young for this, but like the pads went from 12 inches to 11 inches and the blockers got short. I had the old size stuff.
Oh,
So even though like I jumped out there to practice and they're like, yeah, unfortunately, like you can't even sit on the bench because if you had to go in, your stuff's not legal and it doesn't work like that. So yeah, I practiced in the morning or whatever and that was pretty much it. But yeah, so then that summer I just kind of waited around, tried to get something. I was hoping to get like an American League deal. I talked to kind of most of the schools out east at that point, and University of New Brunswick was a good fit for me. They were rebranding their like not rebranding, but they were a good team. Not what they are now, but they were a good team and a good rank and stuff. So that's why I decided to go there. And they offered the program that I wanted to study, which was kinesiology.
yeah. So when you were at University of New Brunswick, you brought them 2 championships. So like, what do you think like went into those years of winning the championship and having a winning team?
So it's interesting. So my first year, like we weren't that good. We were like kind of 500. My numbers weren't that great. We had a starting goalie who at that point had played every game for like 4 years in a row, and he was going in his fifth year. Um, and my mentality was basically what I had just gone through like a couple years prior with, going into Mississauga kind of thing. Like, okay, you're going into a team that's good. Um, but it's weird how that season unfolded for us. Like I said, we were like 500 for most of the season. Then we kind of started getting hot as the season went along. And then we had a we finished like we ended up finishing second, which in that conference over there in the east side of the Canadian University League is that the first two get a bye, and then you go into the semifinals basically. So then we were in the semis. We won in 4 or 5 games, made it to the finals. The team we played in the finals was hosting nationals, so they actually beat us in the finals. But because they hosted, we both went to nationals, and everybody kind of wrote us off. We were like 6 teams went to the tournament. We were ranked like sixth. But we had that mentality that like we're a good team. Like we had a great group of guys. We played for each other. We worked hard together, and so going to nationals, like we played an Ontario team. We won pretty big the first game. The second game, we played a team from out west who was ranked high, Saskatchewan, I believe it was, and we beat them like 1-0. And we just like grinded it out and found a way to win. And then we ended up in the final against the team that we lost to in our league finals, and we won in double OT that night. It was pretty cool. It was pretty special. Like obviously one of the best hockey moments of my career for sure.
Yeah. So like, what was that double overtime game like, and just like the grind that you had to go through to keep the team in the game and just keep everyone keep everyone fresh and just like when you guys actually did get that game-winning goal, like what was the feeling there?
Oh man, I almost have goosebumps thinking about it. What a feeling. We we had an awesome mental coach, and his name's Ryan Hamilton. He's actually the Tampa Bay Lightning mental coach. I think that's the term. Sports psychologist, whatever you want to call it. And Hammy was incredible. He was incredible for me the whole year. He really did a great job of like putting things into perspective of like where you're at and like the moment that you're in like right now. And it's like you're here, nothing else matters. Like you're in this, like be where your feet are. Like you're literally right here, and these are the things that you control, and that's it. So having that kind of mentality, he'd come in and like give the guys like not, I don't know how to explain it. It's not, I guess it wouldn't be like a motivational speech, more so as like guys, like this is, everyone knows that this is a huge game and blah blah blah. But he's like, but you don't have to think of it like that. It's just literally the same game you've been playing for your whole lives. It's just one shift at a time. It's just that little black thing that you guys are working around on the ice. It's just like, so he kind of broke it down to that. And obviously for me as a goalie, it's like one shot at a time, one shot at a time, one shot at a time, refresh. Like that was kind of my first real introduction to self-talk and how to use it effectively. And yeah, so that was kind of it, that whole game. I mean, it's just like, get in position, make a save, get in position, make a save. That was like in my head, like the whole time. And just be present. And that was it. And we scored, double OT. I mean, it was crazy. It was the first time UNB had won in however many years. It was wild. It was an awesome time. We took the cup back to campus, and it was such an amazing experience, which led us into the next year as well.
Yeah, that's just awesome how like you guys were like 500 and then you guys came all the way back from that, go on the national championship game, and then you win in double overtime. So then going back to like the self-talk that you were talking about, like what are some of like the mental cues that you would use to help stay in the game, stay present, just stay positive even when things aren't going exactly how you planned?
So I mean, it's obviously refined over the years, but to be honest, a lot of the principles for me have been the same my whole career. So, we in the OHL, we worked with a guy, and he talked about having like a calling card and like your cue points of, and then Saul Miller wrote a great book, Hockey Tough, and he talks about like your ABCs, and it's kind of the same stuff. What Hammy did with me is he really helped me like mold that better and more efficient. And it's so for me, what works personally for me was like stopping negative thoughts in their tracks. Like don't let myself even allow that to come into me. And I know that kind of the new research is like let it happen. Let your mind like process it, whatever. What had worked for me was just like not letting my mind go there and like, nope, not dealing with it. Get in position. Nope. Get back in position. Find ways to make saves. Find the puck. So that one for me, like get in position, find it, stop it. Like those three were like awesome for me. And I still use them like to this day. Like it's just like block out the rest and just get in position. Because I know that if I get in position and I find that puck, like I should be tough to beat.
Yeah.
I guess if that's a way of saying it. Like I feel like if I can get there and I'm set and I'm square, I should be able to make most saves. So that was a big thing, and I pair that with my system of play, and that's kind of how self-talk integrates for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of the same way. Like once I like negative thoughts come in, I'm like I shut that down right away. Like I don't want it. I don't want that. Just like, and then I say like just stop, just one puck at a time, one shot at a time, just focusing on the shot, and then get in a position if there's a rebound, just find everything, find the puck, find the players around, just just those simple, like I shouldn't say simple. It actually it is pretty simple, but like
Yeah,
it's not that like you know what I'm talking about, like
of course.
yeah,
It
and it's
sounds
just
easy.
but it's really not, and it's
No,
just
of course.
but like self talk definitely does help, and especially when things aren't going right, and you just calm yourself down with just your self talk. It just makes everything a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. One of the things I started implementing more was like, breathe, release, like refocus. That was like a cue that I would say to myself, like breathe, let it go, refocus, breathe. So like one shot at a time, like those kind of thoughts too, like exactly what you said. Is just a matter of how do you stick to it when things get tough. If you get start of the game, like you feel great, boom, down 3-0, 5 minutes in, now what? So that's where I really find it comes into play. And the guys that manage it the most are the guys that are most successful, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. It's like going into systems a little bit. Like you said, you're a huge believer in systems. What helped you develop your system and just to refine it to like how your personal liking and how like successful you are with it.
So it's interesting because I grew up and I've trained with a lot of goalie coaches in my day, and a lot of times, everyone's going to have their own different approach and what they're teaching and stuff. And finally, probably about 7 years ago, I was in, I think, my third season in Linz in Austria there, and the goalie coach came in. Jürgen Panker's his name. He's the goalie coach of Team Austria's junior team that was just playing there.
Yeah.
And so Panks came in, and it was interesting with Panks because like he knew me and he knew like what I was about, and I knew he had a plan for me, but I didn't know that he had a plan for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like leaving the breadcrumbs for me to like get to where he wanted me to be, kind of thing.
Gather all the missing information.
Yeah, but it was that, absolutely, but also like I'm gonna show Ooze this, and he's gonna like it probably and start implementing that in his game. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we we worked a lot on creating a system for me. And we shed a lot of the fat. We trim the fat. So I mean, this is just an example, and by no means is this a right way or wrong way of playing, but like I totally cut out VH in my game. And a piece of that was because I wanted to work so hard to make my RVH stuff incredibly good so that I wouldn't need to rely on a VH. And the other piece of that was that I found I was halfway in between both a lot of times. So I'd be like, ooh, am I like this or like this? And I mean, we're on the video so you can see, but like, is my leg like this, like going to drop the VH leg, or am I going to drop? So I found I was like, it was too much for me I was like, why not just get really good at going into reverse, and then the holes are covered and then I can still move. And now I'm a one decision goalie kind of thing. So little things like that. Like I'm giving you insight into my system, which I don't care, but like like sliding to the post and sticking the post and not like hitting the post and flying into the corner, because I was very active goalie, like incredibly active. I'd be 2 feet out of the crease, and we changed so much of that. And what I'm getting at is that once I was old enough, this I would have been like 28, 29. I'm 35 now. So once I was old enough to really implement, like, okay, these are things that I think work really well for me, and these are things that I don't need. I always had something to fall back on. And what I mean by that is when, you know how it is, like you're not going to feel amazing every single night. You play a lot of games, you're not going to be at 100% every single night, whatever
Yeah.
it is. And so by creating a system that I like, and when I mean system, I mean like stuff that I can do literally with my eyes closed, like because I've done them so many times, is like even if not at my best, I know I'm going to be probably in really good position in the middle of the net. So like if I'm not tracking well that night, the guy still has to beat me posting in.
True.
Nothing's going through me, nothing's going under me, nothing's going over me, even if I'm not a big guy. But it's like they got to still like beat me on good shots. And what I found was the better I got at the system, the more I could like stick the post and be done. And then like the pucks are hitting me. It's like, okay, wow, okay, well now that's 5 saves. Like I wasn't feeling that great, but now start getting a little flow into your game, a little more rhythm. And it's like, okay, now I'm like ready to rock. Like it might have taken me 10 minutes of the game, but I have trust in what I like system.
Yeah.
I have trust in that it's going to lead me. It's going to take me. And then obviously, I can't just play. Like, I'm not a guy that just plays like a wall, but that part of my foundation, I would say, is huge. And, to that extent too, like, I think it's a misconception a little bit of sometimes being too predictable, but it's like, if I do the same thing 100 times on a shot from the faceoff dot and I get scored on 5 times, I'll take a 95 in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's nice. It's good to build like that foundation. Just like know where you can trust, like where you trust yourself and like trust like the system you're providing. Just creating like as you go. Like a bunch of it's like failure at first, like, and then like once you finally get to it, like you're even if you're successful 95 times out of 100, that's still 95%. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good, just as in goaltending terms, and just it's awesome to like build to like just learn from that failure and just bring it to success. And how many days, weeks, months it takes, years, like creating a system isn't easy, but it's definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah, and it's a long process. I mean, you say years, like we're talking. If I were to put a number on how many times I've done an RVH, I bet you it's oh man, like 20,000, 10,000. I've been doing it for 7 years. Like however many times we charted once in a game was like, I don't know, 85, 90 times in a game, like in and out, like not just whatever. Then you add practice, then you add going in and out in practice, then you add the days where you just do that on the ice, movement stuff. So I don't know, put a number on 10 years of doing it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot for sure. But the other thing that you said about the years, and this is where as you get older, you piece this together, is like maybe the first time with the system you're at like that. I'm just going to use the dot shot for an example. It's not specific science, but let's say I'm getting beat 10 times that first year. And the next year, maybe it's like 8 times. And the year after that, my position adapts by a little bit. My body adapts better. And, box control. And now I know what I'm covering. And now it's down to like 4 or 5 times. Like once you start piecing things like this, and, if all else stays the same, if I can add 5 saves a year or 10 saves a year, like you're talking the difference of 900 and 910, or 910 and 920, or 920 and 930, like whatever it is, those couple saves here and there always add up, right? So it's a full on yearly discovery of work and quality work and piecing it together for sure.
Oh yeah, and just making this extra save, the more saves, the better, and it boosts your save percentage, boosts the goals against average, and it definitely helps a lot, especially when you just piece all those things like you said together, and like you make those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 saves more a season. Like those numbers do show, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be different for everybody. What a system is for one person is for the other, or is different for the other. And even working with Chiodo now, who's an awesome coach, and he'll take elements that are in my foundation, and then we can build on those. So it's almost like we like took all this stuff, built it down, and now we like build it up a little bit more. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, yeah, it
it's
does.
like you go from here to here, and then like now I have all these tools, and it's like, okay, well, let's tighten the tools up and only use the ones that are really good, and now we can add different kinds of pieces to those tools, and really try to expand their how they work, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, their efficiency,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
or effectiveness, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, exactly. So now going a little out of the systems a little bit here. Like you're a smaller goalie and like goalie size. Like I'm 5'10". Your elite prospect says you're 5'10". So I'm
On a good day with my
on a
hair, I
good
try to
day.
put my hair higher. Yeah.
on a good day, it's like obviously it's not like goaltenders are usually like tall goaltenders are 6'2", 6'3". It's like what made you such a successful goaltender so far in your career with being a smaller guy and just having to learn to adapt to maybe be a little more aggressive than guys that can just stand on the goal line, just take up a lot of net.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, if you're a smaller guy, I don't know how many goalies tune into this, or if you're like an all all audience type thing, which I've seen you are. If you're a smaller guy, like there's some intangibles that are non-negotiable, in my opinion. And number one, you got to skate well and move well. You got to skate so well, and that's like I said, non-negotiable. Number two, you have to get to position, and that's obviously comes from good skating. So you're right. If I'm generally, I like to make my saves where my toes are like top of the crease, but I might have to start like heels a touch outside so that I can get a little momentum to be at that toes top of the crease spot. That's kind of my quote unquote like optimal saving position, let's say.
Yeah.
So that stuff, knowing what you cover is huge. So if you're a small guy, like how do I cover net like a big guy? How does someone look at me from the stands, and aside from seeing that the numbers are like middle of the crossbar versus like the numbers are above the crossbar, aside from that, like if I'm making saves, am I big in my saves? Am I over top of pucks in a way that from a trajectory standpoint, I'm still filling the space in the net? And then, number one of all those things, once you piece all those together, are you stopping pucks? Like, are you stopping more pucks than anybody else? Are you making a way, like, of course, as a smaller guy, you might be up against maybe some more obstacles, but if you stop more pucks than everybody, people can't deny you of that. And, so once you factor in all that stuff, system, movement, all that stuff, am I making saves? And that's what it comes down to, is results at the end. At pro hockey, for sure, they want guys, you got to give them results, and that's the key.
Yeah, exactly. So going into your pro career a little bit here, you started out in the ECHL with Las Vegas with the Fresno Falcons, where you played 18 games before you got traded to Reading. So, like, what was that first season of pro hockey like, and just ups and downs you face in pro hockey, and just overcoming those obstacles?
So actually, just to back up a bit, is when I started in the second year in university. After that season, we had a great season coming back, and then from that season, I had fast tracked my schooling to be done, so that I was able to go with the Toronto Marlies right after nationals. So I was with Toronto from April till they actually went into the conference finals to like almost June. And that was incredible for me, an incredible experience. you're a practice guy. You take it all in. You take every single shot that everybody wants to take. You work hard every day, and that was my first taste of real pro hockey, and it was really cool. And I actually earned a contract from them. So going into that next year, like you said, I started in Reading before they even played games. Then Reading ended up with 2 goalies. Reimer came down, and Danny Taylor was an LA goalie, and he was there too. So I was on AHL contract, so they shipped me out to Fresno. So that's where I started my pro career, like you said, in Fresno. Our team folded and went bankrupt at Christmas. So from there, I got reassigned back to Reading. Danny Taylor went up to the American League. And then it was Rhymes and I in Reading. And then Reading, we were horrible in Reading. And the Leafs put Reimer in South Carolina to, have a nice playoff. They won a championship, which is awesome. And so it was great for Rhymes. He was able to go there and play and we were done in March, and he played through June. So that was amazing for him. So it was, I saw a lot that first year of pro hockey. Our team went bankrupt. I got to Reading. The coach got fired. But I got to play some games, got to ride the bus quite a bit. Didn't get any call-ups, which is tough in itself. But it is what it is. I ended up signing. So the assistant coach in Fresno ended up taking the head coach job in Las Vegas next year. And then that's why I went and played in Vegas for 2.
Yeah, that's an interesting path, and just seeing a team fold halfway through the season just in Fresno, and then that first year, and just seeing everything you did, and just going to a not a great team, and then the following year you went to Las Vegas. What was it like playing in Vegas and playing for the Wranglers?
It was amazing. It was cool. I was 20. I would have been 23 back then, 24. It was cool. On East Coast salary, it's not probably not the same as these guys have it in the NHL, obviously, but it was the first time. It was a good opportunity for me to play. I was playing a ton of games. I got a lot of starts that year, and just kind of really work. I was a free agent there, so I was really working and trying to keep rolling and get, prove myself again, like we always do as goalies. And so I was in Vegas. I loved it. We got a ton of fans there back then. They still had 5,000 people a game for the most part. Great vibe in the city, obviously. Vegas is Vegas, which was awesome. Yeah. And then it was good.
Yeah, so you also got a call up to the Houston Aeros, and you played a period, I believe. So what was it like playing the AHL and getting to get those minutes?
Yeah, it was interesting, because I remember I got called up that year 3 times, my second year in Vegas, 3 times. So I went to Peoria, Houston, San Antonio, maybe 4 times. I forget now. But that night, I got called up. I got the call at 8 p.m. on a Friday night. I was on a flight the next morning, landed in Houston, got to the rink, whatever, it was 4 o'clock. And then you're right into the game, basically. And it's and Kudobin was playing with them. He was their goalie, the starter. And he played the night before. Second game, the coach, he let in 2 goals pretty quick, and the coach put me in. It was cool. Different. It's so weird. I've always been a guy who kind of needs a little bit of time to get somewhat comfortable. And, it's really tough, getting thrown in there, not having any kind of, you're just there. You don't know anyone. You just get thrown in the game. But that's sometimes how opportunities happen. But I went in. They scored, I think it was 2 goals on however many shots or whatever. And that was it. The next day, the backup goalie came back. He was on a quick weekend personal leave. And then that was it for me. And then I was back down. So it was pretty quick. But But I mean, at the same time, like that was kind of my eye-opening moment where I was like, you know what, like maybe it's time to make the jump to Europe. Like I've done 3 years on the coast. Like I had a pretty good year that second year. And it was like, if I'm not getting a call up and I've had like a pretty good year, like I don't know what more I can do other than obviously winning to get called up. So yeah.
Yeah. So then, like you said, you went on to Europe and you played in Europe for about 10 years now. So like, what was that transition like going from North America to playing hockey in Europe, and like the rink, the ice changes and everything with that, and like the game itself?
Yeah, it was different. I mean, I went to Zagreb. Zagreb was in the Austrian league at the time. So I spent the whole 10 years in the Austrian league, which is the EVL. Now it's called the ICHL, but it's the same league, new sponsor. So yeah, it was interesting. I mean, in North America, like things are, yeah, it's just different. Like, you know, you get your gear and all this stuff. It's like organized, and you go there and it's a little bit chaotic, and you got a practice rink and this, and you know, it was different. I mean, it was a good place for me to get my foot in the door for sure. But like when I first got there, I mean, kind of like in Finland, you know, I went over there with a BlackBerry. I didn't have data. The iPhone was just came out, but I wasn't an iPhone guy yet. And it was like funny story. When I first landed, Vaughn was making my gear. I wore Vaughn for almost my whole career. And they're like, all right, we'll ship it to Zagreb so that you don't have to carry it on the plane. It's like, okay, awesome. So it landed on the Friday. I got there on the Friday. Didn't have enough time to get it at the post office, whatever. Monday morning, first skate, like with the team. And I've told this story before, but it's comical. I can't believe it. I go to the post office Monday morning with a map, like a legit like paper map, which you've probably never even seen. You're so young. Like legit paper map. I'm like trying to like draw where I'm driving and looking at like non-existent street names on the side of the things that you know, at least their letters are normal, the same. And so I find this post office. I see this huge box behind the counter that says Vaughn on it. I'm like, well, that's definitely my stuff. It's like a massive box. There's like everything: pads, gloves, chest protector, pants. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, can I like get my stuff and go? Like in English, the guy's like just staring at me like I'm like a ghost. Sips on his coffee. I don't know if you've ever been to Croatia, but it's typical. Sips on his coffee. He's like, sutra, which, yeah, I found out what that means. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, the box, like me. Like, I'm just pointing and stuff. Like, sutra. So that, like, now, after like 30 minutes of sign language, I don't have this box. Team meetings in like 20 minutes. I don't know where I'm going. I got a paper map. So I have to leave the post office without gear and go to the rink. It's the first team practice, first anything. I get to the rink, I have no gear. So like, you know, you're trying to make an impression. Your first time in Europe, like the trainer is like, hey, I'm a goalie. Like, do you want to use my stuff? And in my head, I'm like, maybe. Like, imagine wearing like gear that's like 10 years old. That's not your like just random sizing.
Yeah,
that's
just
random gear. I think I had my mask and I had my skates.
At least you had those two.
At least I had those two. And like I'm wearing all this guy's stuff. It was horrible, man. First practice, like you're feeling everything, like paper thin, like I mean, whatever. And then the next day I go to the post office with sutra means tomorrow. So the next day I go to the post office with our team manager. Walks in there, he's like, hey, like they're all like buddy. Like I get the guy just like, oh yeah, this one. He just like puts the box there. It was out of there in like 5 seconds.
Why couldn't I do that yesterday?
Yeah, seriously. And I went to the rink and yeah, it was different, man. Just such a different vibe. But Zagreb back then was cool, like 7,000 people chanting like crazy. Like the rink was so loud. I'd never seen anything like that before, ever in my life. Like it was so loud. We played a lot of outdoor games with that organization. Like it was really cool.
Yeah. So like, what is that atmosphere like? Because you just see like all the European leagues with like just the fans like chanting and all that. It's like it must be really really cool to play in and just get that vibe from everyone. Just
Yeah,
it's kind of like a soccer game, kind of.
it's exactly like a soccer game. It's like you can't hear anything on the ice. And that's one thing like this year playing without fans is like in Europe especially, it really takes there's you go to the rinks on the coast sometimes, or you see them sometimes American League, whatever. Like there's no people there, like whatever. They play in front of some teams play in front of 100 games. Like I remember going to whatever Elmira or something. Like they didn't have a lot of people back then, so it's like when you take that atmosphere away from Europe hockey, it really is different. But it was so cool. We played a really awesome game in a Coliseum. So that like the Rome Coliseum, there's also one in Pula, Croatia, and they put a rink in there in like September. And if you Google this, like it's so cool. It's called Pula Ice Fever, and it's like it's legit an outdoor rink in a Coliseum, and both teams had like gladiator jerseys and everything, and they did like this huge like event, and it's amazing, man. Like it's very different. It's a lot more of like a spectacle than at least like in Zagreb it was for that time for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just like the experiences you experience when you're there and just playing in the Coliseum, and just it must have been just unreal. So then going into more of the like throughout like your EBEL, your career in Austria, you played for Linz for a few, for like what, like four seasons?
Six
Six seasons?
Yeah.
There we go. It's like what was it like playing in Linz and just being with the team for 6 years and not getting moved anywhere?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I've been super lucky in my career. Other than that first year in the coast and obviously my junior career, I was at least 2 years every place. So 2 years in Zagreb, and then Linz for six. I mean, Linz was incredible. Like I remember playing in Zagreb, and like every time we went to Linz, I was like, wow, I want to play here. Like credible fans, they're sold out every night. It's a great organization. They take care of the guys really well. So like that was like after 2 years in Zagreb, it was like I was kind of ready to move on because Zagreb's like was kind of a lower end team in the league, and Linz would have been a higher end team. So I was like ready to move on, and they offered me a contract, and I took it. And 6 years in one place, man, what a dream! Like that was like as a hockey player, as a pro hockey player, like my apartment was the same 6 straight years. Like I didn't have to bring stuff home. All my equipment, I knew it's all there, like in my stall. Like it was great, man. It was, it's like my home, like literally 6 years, the whole city, everything, everyone in the city, all the restaurants, all the, cafes and all that stuff. So it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just you didn't have to move anywhere. You just hadn't just stayed
Incredible.
there the entire time. So that must have been super easy on you, and not having to like pack up and move everything and then just move it back after to start the season. So that must have been really nice.
Yeah, it's great too because there is that level of you go back to this place that you're comfortable with. So always when you go to a new team or whatever, there is that adjustment of like, how do I get to the rink? Where do I get groceries? Where do I like, what are some good restaurants? Like it's, so having that like already in where it's like, even the new guys or whatever, they come into Linz, like, hey boys, like, I would plan like the team parties or whatever, be like, hey, we're going to meet here, go have drinks, like, or have coffee or whatever. If you guys need anything, let me know. And I can like try to help you out, get you set up. So like, it was great, man. Having that continuous like home. And it was like actually like home for me. Like seriously.
Yeah, that's just awesome. So then the last 2 years you were in Fehérvár?
Yeah, Székesfehérvár, Hungary. Same league. So Fehérvár. So basically, like with Linz, I was 34, 33. I just finished my 33-year-old year. And, I mean, I was there 6 years. We didn't win. They basically were like, hey, like, we're going to go with our younger guy who's a good goalie. He's still their guy now. And man, I totally understood. Like I wasn't, I was upset to not stay, obviously, but like it
Yeah.
wasn't personal by any means. And they were amazing. Like they did a nice like send off party and stuff like that. It was really cool. And then I became a free agent for the first time in a long time, which was strange. So we just talked about, like putting all my stuff in boxes and leaving it in Linz, and then moving back to Toronto, not knowing where I'm going to sign, like whatever. And then this team, Farivar, called. They're in the same league, which I had been in at that point 8 years. And they're like, we want to sign you to 2 years. Like, would you be interested in coming to play? And I did. Like, I called around and found out, like, it was a great city to live in, like just outside of Budapest, an awesome city, and it was cool. So I went there, but same kind of thing. Like, now you're going from Austrian, which they speak German, which after 6 years, like I should be fluent, but I'm not, but at least I can get by, to like Hungarian, which is might as well be Chinese to me. Like it's tough language, like really tough. So yeah, it was different again. And so I played there last year, and I just got back last week from this season. So
So like, what was that first year in Farivar like? And you played 42 games that season. So what was that like, playing that many games and just being with a new team, like you said, and just the whole experience of it too?
It was different, for sure. And it's interesting to look back on, because I'd played a lot of games in Linz as well coming in, for however many years, and going to Farivar. I mean, we were a weaker team last year. We gave up a ton of chances, ton of shots. Like it was still awesome to, like, fun to play, fun rink. But yeah, it was just different. And a lot of things that the goalie coach in Linz had implemented to, like, not only my system and my structure, but like how he planned every day for me, how he expected like a certain level from his goalies every day. And that he was the first guy to be like, we want 3 goalies every day in practice. And the reason being is because, like, 1, we got to manage your rest time, and 2, every time you go in the net, I want you to be 100%. I want, like, make every save. And then when you're tired, change. We don't want bad quality reps. We want good reps, 100%. Goalie practice, good reps, 100%. We'll obviously work on stuff or whatever, but it was like he had planned everything for me, which I really, like, took for granted, that, like, I didn't have to do it anymore. And I love that. It was like, wow, I don't have to think of anything, just show up and work. Like, this is a dream. So I got to Farivar, it was like very different. Working with a new goalie coach is different. Working with coaches who, like, had never heard of a concept of having 3 guys on the ice. In Linz, we always did optional morning skates. In Farivar, they didn't really ever do them. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm older. Like, maybe I can do some optionals and come to the rink, do my routine and stuff. So it was just like, I went from like one total opposite to the other total opposite. Yeah. And it was challenging, man, in its own way. It was challenging to go from a way of things that I loved to, like, having to, like, recreate that, which is not always easy. And this year going in, like, this year, a lot of that stuff was in place coming to this year, and it was a lot, smoother and stuff. And then they got a new goalie coach, and we got along really well. So it was different year to year, and the team's been successful this year, so that plays a factor as well. But yeah, it was different for sure.
Yeah. So like, what would you do to help recovery, since you're playing so much, and you went from a team where, like, with 3 guys where you're able to take rest, and go into a team that was just 2, and you had to take reps as much as you could.
Well, after a few practices, I definitely had some good chats with the coach there and said, hey, like, because the practices were all like, typical, like, shooter drills for 2 hours, an hour.
Yeah.
Like, I would get off, I'd have my, like, heart rate on, I wear it on the ice, and it'd be like 1,600 calories burned in like an hour and a half. And I'd be like, this is great in August, but, like, come
But now,
come November, like I don't know if this is necessarily what I need if I'm playing every night. So then we got the 3 goalies out there. The quality got higher from all the goalies. It was really good, really good, a new atmosphere, and too, like as an older guy, like I really wanted to, help these young guys. Like one guy, my backup there was 25, Conks, and he's had a really good season this year so far. And then the other guy was like 19. And for them in that city, they hadn't had like any kind of goalie culture before, where like the goalies are a team and like we work together as a team to like, this is our standard. This is how we work. This is how we try to get better. And just like I said, like I had to learn when I was 18, 19, like these guys in Europe sometimes, especially in like Hungary or Austria type thing, like maybe they don't know that. They've never seen that before. Or the starter might not put in the same kind of time with them if he's an import or whatever. So I really want to make sure that I try to give back to them in that. And yeah, it was good. And it helped a lot. It helped a lot for sure.
yeah, that's just awesome right there, and that you're helping the younger guys, and just because it's good to have that, like that veteran, and just being able to like show you the ropes kind of, and just learn from the older guys, and just to keep getting better. And like you could learn so much from a guy who's been playing in the league playing pro for a long time compared to like a new guy, like the 19-year-old coming in. Just it really does help having that like veteran presence for sure.
Well, like the big thing I think that they also learned, and to your question, I didn't answer, but it was like, it's an all-encompassing thing. It's, get to the rink, warm up. If you're lifting, lift. Get on the ice. Be ready to go like shot 1, not shot 50.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so like bringing that into the elements, it helps with my recovery too, because then it's like I take care of myself on all elements as best I can. And then, practice is done. Now you got to cool down. How do you cool down? Everyone's a little bit different. For me, sometimes it would be a lift or just like a roll and stretch, and that kind of thing would be good enough sometimes. So having that balance was huge. Another thing that helped with my recovery a lot was I adapted the way I trained in season from a fitness standpoint. So instead of lifting really heavy like one day, I would lift moderately heavy or light to moderately heavy like 3 days. So my weekly output from let's say a weights lifted standpoint was the same, but way less impact on my body. So if that meant like, doing like a band lift or band workout after games versus, waiting till Tuesday to just crumble my body with a super hard workout, I would piece the workout to like workout Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, post game. So I'd get like 3 or 4 lifts in versus just one big one. So that was a big thing too with the recovery.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear about like how you're treating recovery and all that. So then going into this year, you played 3 games before you got injured. So like what happened like this season? Just like it's a crazy season with like COVID and all that as well. It's like must have been a whirlwind of a season for you so far.
Yeah, it was tough. So I came home. I remember last season our team didn't make playoffs, so it was like a mad dash out of the country, like get back to Canada for us, or the guys from the US, get back to the US. They shut the league down, get back. So I got back and it was like, okay, well, gyms are closed. Everything's closed. So gathered up. I mean, I have a lot of equipment at home as it is. Found some adjustable dumbbells online. I've been writing my workout programs, so I just literally like set up a little gym in my apartment, and I was able to work out like pretty much the same. Like, so my training off ice was the same. And then I was talking with Giotto, and we were trying to find a like time to train and stuff. And Andy was like, just something maybe to consider is that maybe we should get on the ice a little bit so that if they just call you and say, hey, it's time to go back, at least you've like had steps. And, at the very least, we can get on a couple times, take a break. If, they call you and say, okay, you're not coming on for another month or whatever, take a little break and then fire back up. So at least like the rust isn't there. So that's what I did my summers have all been the same. I take I take almost 3 months off. I just like 2 weeks off totally of everything. Just let my body like reset. And then about a month of prehab work. So I'm just fixing everything that, fixing my body, making sure it runs properly, making sure the imbalances are lined up. I do a lot of Pilates for that. I call it Pilates, but it's actually with Sally Belanger in Toronto, and she does we call it movement activation patterning. So it's like, okay, if I do this and this and this, my body needs to do this, this, and this. So if I butterfly, it's like, shoulders, glutes, VMO, ankles, like everything's like in a system. So we do a lot of that stuff. Lifting, I feel like I want to get strong again, find ways to get strong. Oh, not find ways, but stick to my plan to get strong. And then when I get on the ice, I don't touch pucks, or even actually, I don't really want to work with a goalie coach for like 3 or 4 skates. But those skates are very structured. Like I have a plan when I go out there. It's like, okay, I'm doing this, 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 and this. But first day, I don't even butterfly. I'm just moving. Second day, like it's like, okay, move, add a butterfly. Third day, it's like move, slide. Then maybe like fourth day, like I'm just getting into my posts and feeling my posts. And, that feeling like when you haven't worked like reverse stuff, like getting my ankles to feel nice on there, getting my hips to feel nice on there, stretching on there. So I take a few days like that just to feel my gear again and to get comfortable so that when I do get to a coach, I'm not like wasting their time. I'm like ready to like go. And granted, it's different because I'm older, so I trusted myself to do that. If you're a younger guy listening to this, don't feel like you don't need a coach. Like if someone's going to give you a good structure and have a plan for you, I think that's amazing too. I'm just old enough now to have that plan and structure in place. So then, yeah, we started skating, and sure enough, I get a call like, okay, we need you back here in like 10 days. So lucky I started skating a couple times. And I went back there in August, and we did, 2-a-days every day. We didn't play for like 8 weeks, testing all the time. Then the farm team all got COVID, and then they got shut down for 2 weeks. And then 7 of us on our team got COVID. I was one of them. So then I got shut down for like 3 weeks, missed 5 games, which, that sucks now. Took us 3 weeks to get 2 negative tests in a row, which horrible. Then we got back to healthy, practiced a few more days, then jumped right into 2 games. And then basically every team in the league had like 10 plus cases, and they shut the league down again.
Yeah.
So then they shut the league down. Now it's like, okay, no games for 3 weeks. Sure enough, we're practicing. It's like day 5 of practice. Like we're practicing with 6 guys at this point, 7 guys. All the guys that got hurt, that had COVID the first time, were still able to practice. So yeah, less than 10 guys on the ice. Sure enough, quick play happens. Took a one-timer, back of the helmet from a bad angle. It's nobody's fault. Probably more so my fault for trying to like dodge it, and it hit me in the worst spot possible. And so then I was injured. So now the league's back on. I'm injured. Then I had to ramp up again for the 3rd time. First time in August, first time in July, second time after COVID, 3rd time again. First game back, collision right into me, hurt again. And that was basically it for my season. We talked with a team and talked to the doctors, and I needed time, obviously, which teams don't necessarily have time. And we just decided that, we can come to an agreement. I'd come home. So here I am back in Toronto. But yeah, it was, man, I think I've been tested for COVID like 50 times. Like we were testing.
Talk about a nightmare.
We were testing like 3 times a week, playing without fans. I mean, it's tough, but I mean, the league's going, and on a plus side, like all the teams got it already, and the league's been able to play. Like everyone's been getting negative tests, so hopefully there's something to that. Like I know that whatever they keep saying on the news or whatever, but hopefully that there's something to it.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy the times we're living in, just having to experience all this, and it's for the history books. That's what it is for.
Absolutely. And, I think that especially the NHL starting tonight, the teams that are able to adapt the most will be the ones that prevail. Like,
yeah,
we were practicing, like I said, some days like 7 guys. And it wasn't like, hey, guys, tomorrow we have 7. It was like, tomorrow we have 25, and you get there in the morning and 12 guys have symptoms. Like it'll be a lot of adapting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, I have one more question for you before we get this thing done with. So, do you have any tips for the younger goalies looking to get to the next level?
I mean, my biggest thing is habits and working on your habits, and like really, this has been challenging times for everybody, and I think if anything, it's going to separate guys the most this time. The guys who are willing, or guys and girls who are willing to put the time in, will find a way to separate themselves. There's a lot of info and tech out there and stuff that can help you. But working on those habits and like even things, one big thing for me that worked well. So when I got back into the games, I was still fine. Even after time off, was like training well while at home, still sleeping well, still eating well, not falling off the deep end because I'm in quarantine or whatever it is. It's like, whatever, I'm in quarantine. This is what it is. So still sticking to my training program, finding ways to improve. If I got to listen to webinars or something and, work on maybe a little bit on my mental game or creating a self-talk plan or whatever it is. And then, being really consistent with what you do every single day. And it's like every single day you got to show up. And that's the thing with pro hockey is that you have to show up every day. That's what you're expected to do. That's your job. And some days are going to be better than others, of course. But, if you have the right habits, those will help you to be consistent. And the more consistent you are, the more success you're going to have. I really believe in that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just couldn't agree with you more. And that's some great advice. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. I want to wish you the best of luck with everything going forward, and have fun in quarantine until you can get out.
Yeah, 2 more days, and then I guess we're in Toronto lockdown, so it doesn't matter anyway. But it's all good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.